to national and state conferences in District of Columbia, Georgia, California, and Nevada all in the past year, trying to learn about the Common Core and just to see what we can do here to implement it. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight and answering questions that we might have. So we're just going to start off with just a quick video about partnership for the 21st century. Learning Presents, and this video is titled Above and Beyond, and I can never find it to start with.
It was a warm spring morning down at Main Street Schoolyard. Excitement was in the air. Hey, check this out, said Charlie. The school's Golden Places contest has been announced. Come on, let's go get our kits. And so the kits were handed out. Everyone identical. Everyone with a set of precise instructions. Each student set off to work. Charlie knew how to follow directions. He made great progress and was quite proud of his work. Meanwhile, Maya was taking her time. She watched the world around her, noticing other ways things go places. The next morning, Charlie was finished and carefully inspected his work. But a noise interrupted his thoughts. Wow, said Charlie. What was that? You didn't follow the directions, did you? I started to, said Maya. But I wanted to try something different. Maya, what does that have to do with a go-kart? Asked Charlie. Who said it had to be a go-kart? Suddenly, my project doesn't look very exciting. But you're a great builder, said Maya. Hey, maybe we should work together. And so they did. First, they compared notes. Charlie was good at details. Maya, good at dreaming up ideas. Each had a different approach to getting things done. Then they got to work. Side by side, they helped one another to build something new, something inspiring, something spectacular. The next morning, everyone gathered for the final challenge, the big race. Each student stood alongside his or her finished project, each cart a perfect replica. Well, almost perfect. Ready? asked Charlie. Ready as I'll ever be, said Maya. Some of the other students weren't considered for this. Ha! You may think you're going places, but you're just going to lose.
Students, start your engine. On your mark. Get set.
Charlie shouted. Maya, they're all ahead of us. What are we waiting for? No worries, said Maya. Flaps down, throttle up. Whoa, did you see that? And we have our winner. Charlie, Maya, Brits. We did it. We finished, said Charlie. Finished? I don't think so. We've only just begun. Right? Flaps down, throttle up. And off they went. They really were going places. They were going above and beyond.
So that's a very choppy video. It's just kind of how we're going to intro our Common Core presentation this night. So when we talk about the Common Core, especially in conjunction with Discovery Charter School, we're focusing on the big 4 C's. We're talking about communication, what we're doing here tonight, what we continue to do through parent meetings, newsletters, teacher websites, and just daily communication. We talk about collaboration. Miss Frazier and I both work at different campuses. She works in Summerlin, I work here. We meet about once every 10, 14 days to sit down, talk about what's happening at each campus, collaborate, build ideas, and see what we can bring best practices to both campuses. But also we like to collaborate with our parents. We get a lot of good ideas for projects and teaching practices, things we can do in our classroom. We're going to talk about critical thinking, looking deeper into skill sets, evaluating a little deeper some of the skills that our students have. And then creativity, which is one of the things that we've always really emphasized here at Discovery Charter School. And we're going to continue to emphasize here is how to not only teach, but also teach creatively and collaboratively. So the 21st century skills and the 4 C's are infused in the Common Core standards, which are really the end goal of the end goals of the career and college readiness standards. So I have a copy of them here. I like to make the joke, and it's not a joke, it's true. I literally sleep with them by my bed. I have one in my nightstand. My fiance likes to throw it at me when he gets upset. Just kidding. But this is my pretty version because it's not all marked up and it's not. It's still nice and pristine. So as you can see, it's really big. It's over 700 pages. It's very verbose and it's very wordy. So what we're going to do tonight, and what you have in your packets in front of you, is just a way to kind of unpack the Common Core. Okay, what's important? What do we need to know from here as parents, as educators, so we can partner together effectively and continue the great work we've already done here at Discovery Charter School. If you're interested in viewing the actual core standards in their entirety, the link is in your packets, and you are welcome to go look at them and spend hours and hours having a great time. So we talk a lot about career and college readiness when we have Discovery Charter School. For those of you who don't know, I have been here since the school started. I was hired open house night of the first year, and I've been here since. So I've really been able to see us develop. And one of the things we really always emphasize is giving kids real world experience. And a lot of the reason we do that, a lot of the reason we put them in internships, a lot of the reason that we try to get them out in the community is with these career and college ready examples in mind. So when we talk about some examples from the core, whoa, we're going too fast. Here are 2 examples of some things that you would see in the Common Core. So the first one is an example of a standard that would be an end goal. So a student who's ready to graduate high school and enter either the workforce, enter the armed services, or enter a collegiate program would be able to read closely to determine what the text says explicitly and to make logical inferences from it. Cite specific textual evidence when reading or speaking to support conclusions drawn from the text. And what's exciting about what we've always done here at Discovery, and what we continue to do, and what we continue to emphasize, is we do that. We've done that before with our kindergarten students, and we do it with our 8th grade students. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that carries through and how that develops this evening. The second example would be to prepare and participate effectively in a range of conversations and collaborations with diverse partners, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. That's the reason we do partner projects. It's one of the great things about a project-based school is that we've really been able to infuse that into our learning. Our kids have probably a more developed skill set to be able to talk to other peers, adults, and people in the professional world just off of project-based learning. Any questions so far? Feel free to stop me because I talk fast. And I'll just keep talking if nobody stops. And the space bar is it. Okay, so we are fully implementing the Common Core state standards this year. And what that means is that we've been in a transitional year for the past 2 years. The whole state of Nevada has, and in fact the whole country has. 43 states have adopted it, and everyone is in their final year of transition. So what that means is when you look at the Discovery Charter School standards from the first year, from the very first beginning, you will see that they're very, very closely aligned to the core. They always have been. But this year is the final step to make sure they're just 100% in line. And what that means is that we're teaching the right math to the right grade, that we're teaching the right books to the right grade, things like that. But we've always done these things. These are not new concepts. These are not new ideas. One of the exciting things is we'll be taking the new national test with Common Core standards in spring of 2014. It's called the SBAC, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. And Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, it's called the SBAC. We've actually been selected to take it, which is really exciting for us. So as it gets closer to spring, we'll have a lot more examples and things to talk about related to the SBAC, especially if you have a student who's in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. It's a lot more pertinent to them. So as we get there, we'll talk about it a little more. But just so you are aware, we will be taking it, and these new tests are completely aligned with the core. So the first one we want to address is where did the Common Core standards come from? And they came from a multitude of places. The Council of Chief State School Officers and National Governors Association Center for Best Practices. Teachers, school administrators, and experts work together to provide a clear and consistent consistent framework to prepare students for college and the workforce. Standards have been adopted by most states, and currently each state has its own set of standards. So what that means is a student in Nevada here is not learning the same as a student in Pennsylvania. So I had previously been teaching in Philadelphia, and before I was teaching in Philadelphia, I was teaching in Brooklyn, and before I was teaching in Brooklyn, I was teaching in Jersey, and then I came here to Las Vegas. Okay, so I taught in four different states altogether. And no child in each state was learning the same thing. A kid in Philadelphia was learning fractions in 4th grade, while a kid in Brooklyn was learning just basic division. And a kid in Jersey was learning beginning geometry skills, while a kid in Nevada is learning to compute area and circumference. So it was really inconsistent. So what the Corps has done is just said, you know what, let's come together in a line and have consistency across all states so that we can better service our children, and we're setting measurable expectations and being accountable. So we're just creating more consistency. Okay, so how will the Common Core standards be different? So one of the big things in Core is that it's going to include rigorous content and application of knowledge through higher order thinking skills. And when we talk about higher order thinking skills, we're really talking about knocking out the 5 W's and the H. So who, what, where, when, why, and how. Those are not questions that necessarily evoke higher level thinking skills. We want students to dig deeper, compare and contrast, analyze, draw a conclusion, investigate material. So when we talk about questions that are included in our curriculum, in our projects, in course content, we're asking teachers to evaluate how we can get students to dig deeper. How can they get them to ask better questions? How can we ask better questions of them? We're also going to talk about performance-based collaborative activities and assessments. Now this is just a fancy word to say something that we've always done. Differentiated learning, okay? Teaching kids where they need to be taught, putting them in the class that fits them best. And all that means is that we're going to try to include more activities to service students at their level. We're going to try to find more things that better teach the kid that doesn't know how to read while still being in a classroom with his peers. So we're trying to find more ways to just differentiate our approach instead of a one-size-fits-all. We've always done this by moving kids around, but now we really want to focus on putting it more in our classroom. Okay, so this is the biggest change for us. For Discovery Charter School, this is the #1 change, and this is integrated literacy across content areas, including science and social studies. What that means is there are certain goals that we are expected to meet in science and social studies, and they have always been, for example, 6th grade world geography, understand China's economy in relationship with world free market, understand geographical features of India, things of that nature. And now what we're trying to do is, how can we increase reading and writing in social studies and science? So as opposed to me kind of standing here and lecturing or PowerPoint presenting or presenting, we want to do more reading. Read an article, find a source, bring it back, do a project, make a map, do something that not only requires you to think, but also requires you to write. The same is true in science. Now this is not to say these practices weren't taking place in the past 2 years, but this is to say that we're increasing our focus on this, and this is different now because it's in writing. So you know when something's in writing, it's permanente. So you have to do it. And then this is another change that I know a lot of our parents have recognized this year, which is the stronger emphasis on informational text, academic vocabulary, and research and media skills. Now the research and media skills we've always done. We're a project-based learning school. Our kids are very fluent in being able to go find information and bring it back to us. However, the focus on informational text and academic vocabulary is a shift. Informational text is a fancy way of saying nonfiction. So prior to transition to core, Nevada State Standards, which is what Discovery Charter School works with, says that you need to have 60% literary text, which is fictional, and 40% informational. Okay, so that means nonfiction text. That means nonfiction books, articles, whatever it is. Now with the core, you're looking at a 50-50 split. So does that mean in your child's reading class, are they reading a fiction book and then a nonfiction book? Absolutely not. But that means that in conjunction with, right now we're teaching Number the Stars in reading class. In conjunction with Number the Stars, they are also reading an article on World War II that's nonfiction. Okay? In conjunction with your child writing a report on unicorns, they're also reading an article about horses and comparing and contrasting. So we just want to increase children's ability to use their comprehension skills to apply them to non-fictional texts. And why is that? Well, I like to make the joke. We came back from Washington, D.C., and we said, we have to present to a room full of 40 teachers, all the things that we learned, and teachers are real quick. We have the worst ADD in the world, so if you don't hook us, we're gone. So Mr. Vera and I came up here, and we kind of planned it out. So we did a skit. And in this skit, we talked about how when you go on a job, they're not going to say, could you read this novel and tell me what you think about it? No, your boss is going to say, here's the report on shoes. Can you read this and tell me what you think this means? And that's the kind of skill set that we want to start infusing. So we have been always reading non-fictional texts. We have always been reading articles. But there's an increased focus on it because there's an increased emphasis on it. Academic vocabulary is another one of our goals. We established 5 goals for Discovery Charter School at the beginning of the year. In alignment with the core, and academic vocabulary was one of them. You can see that in my classroom we have the word wall over here, we have a word wall over here, and these are all our academic vocabulary terms. As we cover one of these terms, we stick them right up on the wall. And I know Ms. Kritzler, Ms. Vera, most teachers have a very, very similar system in their classrooms. The reason for that is, much like an adult, we don't need to talk down to students. We don't need to dumb it down. I don't need to say, can you find that thingy that means that you divide? No. I can say, what's the dividend? Find me the quotient. I'm going to use the correct language because I need to model best practices. Okay, so that's one of the reasons for that. Any questions on these transitions? Ooh. Oh, one more. Cross-curricular and cross-grade level consistency. So what that means is that across every subject and every grade level, teachers are doing the same things, okay? What I do in my classroom, Ms. Kritzler is going to do in her classroom, but different. Well, that's kind of tricky. What does that mean? That means if I'm modeling word problems, I'm going to use a similar strategy. We're all going to use cubes. We're all going to use focus. Okay, Ms. Kritzler's going to use it too. Now, that doesn't mean I sit on the floor with my kids. Ms. Kritzler sits on a carpet. She sits at a table with her kids, okay? It doesn't mean that we're doing the same games. It doesn't mean we're doing the same activities. What it means is we're going to try to have a very fluid environment so that if I'm teaching fractions and the teacher above me, the 5th grade math teacher is teaching fractions, and my kid knows how to add fractions with the same denominator, I can just move them right up to Ms. Hall for a week. Just go. She's teaching fractions too. You know this? You don't need to be here. Okay? And we do that across all grade levels. We try to teach the same standards at the same times right now. So kids who need to move a lot, and we have a lot of kids that need that, can move a lot, both up and down. Alright, so the ELA Common Core Standards, ELA means English Language Arts, and ELA is definitely the most cumbersome in the standards. Okay, so ELA Common Core Standards go off of the staircase of complexity design. The standards build upon each other, and I think I have that example on my other computer. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm shuffling computers. Bear with me. I haven't had a whole lot of coffee today. Just a few cups. 4 cups, 5 cups. How much is too much coffee? That's better. There's no such thing. There it is! That's the intro. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Okay, 20 tricks. You know a teacher is doing a presentation when she's not prepared. All right, let's see if I get this. There it is. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the actual standards. There we go. So this is an example of a product that we utilize in the primer grades to model the staircase of complexity. So these are the reading standards for literature. We're going to use these as an example. And let's take a look at the first one, RLK1. So for kindergarten, they have to, with prompting and support, ask and answer questions about key details. In 1st grade, they just need to, without support, ask and answer questions about key details. 2nd grade, they need to ask and answer who, what, where, when, and why, answer questions to demonstrate understanding and referring to text. 4th grade, refer to details and examples in text when explaining what it says explicitly and when drawing inferences. In 5th grade, quote accurately from explaining what text says explicitly when drawing inferences. So what you can see in these standards is they build upon each other. They're asking students to master a new skill each year. So every year they're just building on what they learned before. The expectation is different, but because we're utilizing the same information, it's easy for us to gain achievement because they have confidence in that area. They've already mastered that skill set. And the same is true all the way through language arts, and I know we have some middle school parents here, and you can see the same is true in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all the way to 12th grade as well, okay? So they cite textual evidence to support analysis of what text says explicitly, cite textual evidence to support analysis of what text says explicitly, and draw inferences, and cite text evidence that supports analysis of text with inferences. So they build upon each other. So that's why blended classrooms work. That's why we have that model here. That's why we've always had that model, because it works. Because you can teach a 4th, 5th, and 6th grader how to do a skill set while differentiating it and making it more complex each time. Any questions about these, the staircase of complexity? Fancy terms for simple things. Like most things in education and life. Too fancy. Okay, so next thing is the combination of literary and informational text, which we already kind of touched base upon. I just want to make sure we're including more nonfiction. What am I doing today? There we go. Integration of social studies and science content into knowledge. So what that means is when I'm teaching math and I'm talking about a word problem, I want to be using some scientific examples. I want to be talking about some real statistics. When I'm talking about reading and we're reading a book that takes place in Switzerland, we want to be looking at a map of Switzerland. We want to actually be talking about the real things that are associated with it. Okay, we also, we've always focused on it. CCSD, this is their big change. Like our big change was kind of focused on the vocabulary. CCSD is the 3 types of writing. Prior to these shifts, to this transition, they had taught narrative and persuasive. We've always taught all 3 because we're project-based learning. We talk so much about the informational writing skills, writing reports, writing research. They never taught that in elementary school. They had it taught through a narrative. So my opinion about this is, or persuasive, you should not smoke because. So they're including factual information that they're taught, and where we try to get kids to present more of an unbiased opinion and then inject their opinions through their project deliverable. This is not too much of a switch for us. We've kind of always been doing this. Emphasis on academic vocabulary. Again, I really cannot emphasize how much we're really pushing this year across all grade levels in all core subjects. Okay, so this is a chart to just kind of demonstrate some of the switches that have been made. This is what's called Lexile levels. So Lexile levels are a measure that we use, it's a national measure to measure text complexity, vocabulary, and content. Okay, so when we look up a book, we go to scholastic.com and we look up Lexile level for Everlost. Lexile level for Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. Okay, so you can see prior to the shift, and I'm just going to use 4th through 5th grades. They had a pretty reasonable shift. They were looking for about a 645 to an 845 score. Number of the stars is about 750. 750, 800. It can be an 800 if you make it. We're making it. So post-core, they're being asked to read a 770, 980. Looks like this. It's a difference. Definitely a big difference. Okay, same thing across all grade levels. 6th through 8th grade had kind of a dramatic change in their Lexile level. There was a big one. But we've always been really good here about pushing complex text. We have teachers here that spend the majority of their time on Amazon, reading reviews, finding things. So when we refer books to students, when we give books to students, when we assign reading, when we pick novels we're going to teach in our classroom, this is kind of the first step for us. We look up the Lexile level. I really want to teach this book. Does it fit within the framework for my student? Then I look at the content. Okay, address the standard that I needed to. And we just kind of look from there. ELA standards organization is organized into 5 strands, and if you got, 6, if you've got your progress reports and you are an elementary parent, you will see that you have these on your progress reports. So I'm going to do this right after progress reports. So you have reading for literature, which is 10 sub-standards. Reading for literature is the anchor, it's kind of the umbrella. Then you have reading for informational text, foundations of reading, writing, language, speaking, and listening. Now we address all of our speaking and listening things, standards in here every day, all day. Our kids are doing nothing but talking to us all day, so we are able to assess those very easily. Okay, so Common Core Math. I think I skipped one, I'm not really sure though. Did I? Nope, definitely didn't. All right, Common Core Math. The changes in math have been a little greater. And if you are a parent that is noticing some things are different this year in math, you are correct. Things are different this year in math. So in math this year, we want to use our focus. We want to narrow and deepen the scope. So we spend more time talking about multiplication, but we dive deeper into the subject of multiplication. We talk about different strategies, estimation, rounding, different ways to solve. Coherence, connecting across grade levels. Again, as the example I stated previously, if I'm teaching fractions, Ms. K is teaching fractions, and we can just move kids as we need to move them. Fluency, speed, and accuracy. You can see right there I have my popcorns and I have my clips. Every day kids take a speed test and then they get to move up through the popcorn, move their clip up. We want kids to be fluent in their math facts by the time they leave 5th grade. And by math facts, I mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. By the time we hit middle school, we're looking for students to be fluent in deciphering word problems and equations. So we look for that. We look for a deeper understanding and application of concepts. So not only are you able to learn what I'm teaching you, I like to do something in my math class where we do teach the teacher. So I'll sit on the floor with the kid and they'll teach me the concept. So you have to model it for me. I don't get it, I don't understand it, this is my question. You have to be able to teach it back to me. And also you need to be able to apply it. So that's why when we talk about, we look at some of those charts and we look at some graphs, some informational text sources. Are you able to read those and identify the mathematical problem, draw out the information, and solve? Dual intensity, practice and understand. So not only are we looking for homework to look like 20 math problems, 20 multiplication problems, we want to have some algebra problems in there as well. We want to have some word problems. And their vocabulary, again, familiarity with academic vocabulary and frequent usage. There are 2 sets of standards in math. The math domain standards by grade level, and then the K-12 mathematical practice standards. We focus primarily on the math domain standards by grade level. We utilize mathematical practice standards when we think of things that we need to supplement, advance, or reteach. Okay, so that's the primary difference. Math domain standards, kindergarten is the only one that has one just by themselves. They have counting and cardinality. Kindergarten is the only grade level to have counting and cardinality. They've always had counting and cardinality, but they used to have it in 1st grade as well. Okay, so that's learning one-to-one correspondence, learning to differentiate between larger and smaller, counting on, but now it's just kindergarten. So we want kids who exit kindergarten to be proficient in that skill set. And then we have the big 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see up here that's the same K through 5. It shifts when you get to middle school, but if you have a K-5 student, this is what you're looking at. Numbers and operations in base 10, operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations with fractions, measurement and data, and geometry. So those are just 4 categories of what you're going to teach. You can see my kids have only done base 10 and a little algebraic thinking and a little geometry and measurement so far this year. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about math or language arts before we get on to the last little bit? Okay, good. Making sense? All right, so the new Common Core assessments. The new Common Core assessments are the SBAC, like I told you, it's the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. These are pretty cool. I had a chance to pilot these when I was at the Nevada Nevada National Conference. I think it's one of the best things to ever happen. We have to give tests, unfortunately, And when we do give tests, this is a very cool approach. So what happens is the student, let's use third grade as an example. Third grade student sits down at the table to take the test. It's on the computer. Question number 1. What's 2 times 2? Student, I don't know. Wrong answer. Okay, let's give you an easier question. What's a double-digit addition? Question, what's 24 plus 36? Oh, I got that one. Okay, great. So it adjusts the test to what the student knows. And the SBAC will be able to specifically tell the parent, specifically tell the school, specifically tell the student, your student is strong in multiplication, division, but is not strong in word problems, okay? So it adjusts the test to each student, so every student is really taking a different test. It's really different for all kids, but it's kind of neat because they have the ability to build confidences, and then it'll bump back up. So I'm curious to see, and I know I said this in Summerlin, I'm very curious to see, I think some of our kids are going to come back with scores, like some of our 5th, 6th grade kids in the 10th, in the 11th, in the 12th grade, and that'll be kind of cool to see because right now we just see the score, and some kids get great scores, they get almost perfect scores, some kids miss 10 points, some kids are really low, but if you give me a 400 on a CRT, what am I going to do with that? I don't know, but if you give me a test that says, so-and-so is really good at deciphering phonemic awareness, however, is really poor at answering comprehension questions. I, as the educator, you as the parent, we know what to enforce. So people using the SBAC is going to be 29 other states. There's another test. It's not the SBAC.
Is it keys or something?
Keys, thank you. It's the keys test. Wow. I'm losing it today. The keys test is the other test. We are not taking the keys test. The state of Nevada has opted to use the SBAC. I personally really support that decision. I liked it. I thought it was fun going through it. And the purpose of the SBAC is to develop a comprehensive and innovative assessment system for grades 3 through 8 and grades 11 in ELA and math aligned to the Common Core standards. So students leave high school prepared for the post-secondary success in college and career. One thing we do know unequivocally, without a doubt, students are not prepared for college when they leave high school right now, especially in the state of Nevada. Our students systematically perform better in other states. Okay, Nevada is ranked low in the education system. And part of the reason for that is we're not providing them with the right skill sets. So one of the cool things is we've kind of leveled out the playing field with the core. Everybody's learning the same thing. Everybody has the same skill set. Some people are getting the extra because they're mastering things faster. My niece graduated high school from Veterans Tribute Academy. She earned her associates and her high school diploma on the same day. She went to college, got into college, first semester, they're like, you don't need to take this class, or this class, you're fine. Just go, because she was prepared. And we still have the ability to do that, and we still will continue to do that. Right now, we only go to 8th grade. However, I will tell you that our students who leave here and go into 8th grade are highly successful in high school. Highly successful. They have skill sets their peers don't. They know how to decipher, comprehend, and analyze information better than their peers. So we are doing a great job. We can continue to do a great job here preparing them for this environment, and we're just going to continue to have that focus. All right, so this is something we like to show when we talk to teachers. It's by Taylor Molly. It's called Spoken Word, and it's just going to kind of reinforces the message of the change in 21st century learning. But I'm not sure that it's going to work because everything is...
Or believe strongly in what you're, saying. Invisible question marks and parenthetical you knows, and you know what I'm saying, have been attaching themselves to the ends of our sentences, even when those sentences aren't, questions. Declarative sentences, so-called because they used to, declare things to be true, okay, as opposed to other things that are, totally, not. They've been infected by this tragically cool and totally interrogative tone. As if I'm saying, don't think I'm a nerd just because I'm notice this, okay? I have nothing personally invested in my own opinions. I'm just inviting you to join me on the bandwagon
and we really do have a vested interest in every child that walks through that door, seeing them succeed and being a part in what makes them successful. Alright, so the Common Core statements are an opportunity to transform how we teach our students to prepare them for the 21st century. And the question we just need to continue to ask ourselves as staff, as teachers, as community members, as parents, is how can we best partner in that change? So that is the conclusion. Do we have any questions? We kind of really just skimmed the surface. It's our intention to hold more conferences, more meetings, for lack of a better term, addressing more in-depth topics as the year progresses. So we will be holding these again. We just want to make sure people have an understanding of where we're coming from.